Hi. I'm gonna review a book for you guys today. I'm gonna break down a book for you guys today. That's all I got for an intro. Sorry, I'm real bad at this. Anyway, today I will be discussing part 1 of a book called Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. So our protagonist is Judas Coyne, aka Jude, aka Justin Krasinski. He is a 50-something-year-old aging rock star who used to be super famous and is super rich. I didn't really like him that much. I didn't think he was super likable. He's just like this grumpy old man who still dates 20-year-olds. Oh, and he calls his groupies by the state that they live in. So he was dating a girl named Florida, he's dating a girl named Georgia, and so on. Anyway, Judas is a collector of strange and macabre things. I think among his collection there's like some weird old satanic stuff and a snuff film. When he was younger, he and his mother were abused by his father. His mom tried to escape once, but was convinced to go back by family. And when she came back, the dad held a shotgun to her chest and threatened to kill her if she ever tried to leave again. So that was the end of that. His mom had passed away, I think he said like 30 years ago, and his dad is currently dying in his farmhouse in Louisiana. Jude has very little contact with his father. He's only getting updates on his condition through his aunt who is taking care of him, who's a registered nurse. Jude is currently dating Georgia, aka Mary Beth. They have been living together for almost a year. She's a former stripper and very much in love with Jude. There's not a whole lot more to her. She can throw knives real good. And that's it. I can't really think of many other words to describe her. So Jude, Mary Beth, and Jude's two big German shepherds, Bo and Angus, all live together in this nice big house in New York, I believe. There's an office space for his best friend slash personal assistant, I think. His name is Danny, and he works for Jude in some capacity. Anyway, one day, Danny brings an online auction to Jude's attention. A woman is selling her stepfather's old suit, which she claims is haunted by the man's ghost. Jude is immediately like, yes, I want this. And he throws down $1,000 for the buy it now option. The suit arrives in a black heart-shaped box. Georgia is the first to take the suit out of the box, and she is immediately pricked on her finger by a pin or something in like the jacket pocket. It ends up getting really badly infected. So weird things start to happen almost immediately with the suit. Jude had put it up away in his closet, and every morning after he had gotten out of bed, the suit was laid out on his side of the bed. And apparently it stunk so bad that Mary Beth had eventually had enough of it and burned the suit. So Jude starts seeing the ghost of the stepdad in his Johnny Cash-esque suit and fedora sitting in a chair in his hallway. Nobody else seems to see him, and it really freaks Jude out, as it should. His eyes look like they have been scribbled out by a black marker, and he carries a long crescent-shaped razor blade on the end of a chain. So he contacts the woman who sold him the suit, and she reveals to him that her name is actually Jessica Price, and she knows about Jude because Jude used to date her sister Anna, or as Jude knew her, Florida. It turns out that Jude lived with Anna for almost a year before he eventually kicked her out and sent her back to live with her family. The way he describes Anna is kind of strange. He kind of makes her sound a little dumb, just asking random strange questions all the time. He gives her like this like bumpkin accent or something. He always talks about her southern accent. Just stupid questions. Like one of them was like, "What's the best dog you ever had?" And it just, I don't know, it just reminds me of, "Tell me about the rabbits, George." I can't explain it any other way. So yeah, Anna always asked a lot of questions. She said she would rather ask questions than answer them. That's what she always told Jude. Anna was manic depressive, I believe, and it just got to be too much for Jude to handle, so that's why he eventually sent her back to live with her family. She apparently wrote to him and tried to contact him a lot, but he just never answered her. Jessica goes on to tell Jude that Anna had actually killed herself, and Jessica blames Jude for that. So Jessica had orchestrated this whole online auction because she knew that Jude would not be able to resist buying a dead man's suit. Now she claims the stepfather is going to exact revenge by killing Jude and anyone around him that he cares about or who tries to help him. So one day, Jude finds a very freaked out Danny sitting in his car in front of the house. Danny informs Jude that he's leaving and he is never coming back to the house. So Jude knows that Danny has seen the ghost of the man, and he doesn't blame him for leaving. Jude does some online research and discovers the man's name is Craddock, and he was a prominent psychic / hypnotist / medium. As he's reading his obituary, the words become jumbled into different variations of like, "You're dead, you will die, we are going to ride the night road." That comes up a lot with what Craddock constantly tells Jude is that they're going to ride the night road together. Eventually he tells Mary Beth what's been going on, and he tries to convince her to leave, but she refuses. She's like, "Oh no, you're not going to get rid of me that easily." She mentions how she had seen a ghost one time at her grandmother's home where she grew up. It was the ghost of her grandma's twin sister who had been abducted and killed when they were young. This comes back later. That's why I'm mentioning it. So one night, Jude wakes up around 3 a.m. and Mary Beth is not in bed. So before he can go look for her, the phone rings, and it's Danny. Danny apologizes to him for telling him about the suit in the first place. He tells Jude that he's wandering down some street and he doesn't know where he is. Jude tells him to sober up and find a street sign and practically hangs up on him. Jude goes downstairs to find Mary Beth watching TV. And it seems to be something familiar on the TV, but before he can distinguish what it is, the phone rings again. And once again, it's Danny, and this time Danny remembers how he got where he is now. He said it's because he killed himself. He said that Craddock followed him home and convinced him to hang himself. He apologizes to Jude again and warns him that Craddock is very, very convincing and Jude should not listen to what he says. When Jude gets off the phone, he goes to check on Mary Beth and realizes that she's actually watching the snuff film that he owns, and she's in sort of a trance. As he comes around to face her, he finds she is pleasuring herself with one hand and holding a gun in her mouth in the other. Before she can pull the trigger, he wrenches the gun out of her hand. And before he puts it away, he realizes that this whole scene is arousing to him. He finds himself getting very close to her face and holding the gun up to her head. So he stops himself, and a news broadcast comes on the TV in the middle of the snuff film to report on Jude's death. It says that he killed his girlfriend before turning the gun on himself. Craddock appears, and it seems like Jude is going to listen to what he says. He just keeps telling him over and over again, like, no, you're gonna kill her, and then you're gonna kill yourself. And Jude starts to become convinced, like, yeah, okay, this is what's gonna happen. So much so to the point where Mary Beth tries to run away, and he like grabs her by the hair and throws her down to the ground and like kicks her in the stomach. And suddenly, between Craddock's words, he hears his dogs barking outside. For some reason, he knows that he needs to get to the dogs. Oh god, I'm trying to remember what it was, but he stabs his hand on something, just punctures it through the muscle, and he uses that to like focus on the pain and the barking of his dogs, so he can ignore Craddock and run down the stairs to go outside to where the dog's pen is. So he makes it outside and he releases the dogs, and he believes he sees like, he says he sees like 2 of them each. So like he sees a shadow dog within each dog, and he said he's pretty sure that those are their souls. And they go and attack Craddock, and they can actually hurt him, and so they end up biting the shit out of him. Craddock quickly escapes in his ghost pickup truck, and Jude loads Mary Beth and the dogs into his car and proceeds to drive to Florida to see Jessica in person. Meanwhile, Mary Beth's whole hand is inflamed now with infection, so naturally they stop by an urgent care to get some antibiotics, right? No, they don't. Mary Beth refuses to do anything about it. She is very sure that once they get rid of Craddock, the infection will just magically go away on its own, which is a lot to bank on when you could just go and get antibiotics. That's just me, though. So they stop at a motel, and Jude plays his guitar and thinks up a new melody for a song that he calls Drink to the Dead. And after that, he does some research on Craddock, and he read an article about how Craddock found this long lost airplane crash site, and apparently he found it by talking to the dead pilot directly. Jude then reminisces about Anna and her behavior towards the end of their relationship. She barely moved, barely spoke. One day he actually found her just in her underwear, sitting in the dog's pen in the mud, pricking herself on the thumb with a needle. She says that she does this to take the mental pain away. He also recalls a time where he actually went out of the house for something, and on his way back he's driving and he sees Anna just in the middle of the road with nothing but one of his oversized t-shirts on, and like She sees his truck and she like runs out in the middle of traffic. She almost gets hit by this 18-wheeler truck, and he opens his door and like drags her inside, and she's like holding on to him. She's clinging to him, and she's just like, "Where did you go? I looked for you. I couldn't find you. Where did you go?" And this is, I believe, like the very last straw that Jude has just had enough. And he like elbows her back into her seat, and he's basically just saying like, I've had enough of this shit. You're not the only girl who can read palms. That's another thing that she did. She would read palms and stuff, like her dad, I guess. He's like, you're not the only girl who can tell the future. And I see your future, and it's sitting in a fucking train station with your bags packed. And so, sure enough, that's what he does. Over the next few days, he tells her that he's leaving the house for a couple weeks, and he thinks that she shouldn't come with him, but he also can't leave her alone by herself. So he asks if there's any family members that he can call for her. And she says, yeah, you can call my stepdad and my sister. You were great to put up with me as long as you did. So Jude and Mary Beth walk over to a nearby Denny's for breakfast the next morning. While there, the waitress accidentally pours scalding hot coffee all over Mary Beth's infected hand, which sounds just awful to me. I had an infected finger one time, and that was just the worst pain ever. And I cannot imagine getting a burn on top of that. So that was very, like, cringe-inducing for me. I was like, gross. No, thank you. So Mary Beth cusses out the waitress and gets up and storms off to the bathroom. And the waitress gets all snotty about it. And she's like, well, I'm sorry, but that's no reason for her to act that way. And you look like a drug peddler, and she looks like a prostitute. Which, great. Yeah. Okay. At this point, Jude has had enough, and he demands that she go and get the check for him. And while she is gone and he's waiting there, his attention is drawn to a nearby customer's voice box machine thingy. The thing that smokers use to talk. You know what I'm talking about. Hold on. Artificial larynx. That's what it's called. Anyway, it starts to talk by itself, and it starts saying things like before, the things that he was reading in the article, like, you will die, you will kill your girlfriend, you will ride the night road with me. And it's very creepy. Jude gets up to go to the women's restroom to find Mary Beth and tell her that they are leaving right now. And he finds Mary Beth standing and staring in the mirror as if in some sort of trance. And then she punches the mirror, and it shatters, and she takes one of the glass pieces and she tries to cut her own throat with it. Before she can, Jude grabs it from her hands and leads her out of the bathroom. As they leave, they walk through the parking lot, and they see Craddock sitting in his ghost truck, and his window is down, and you can hear his radio, and the whole time they're walking by, the radio is trying to convince Jude to choke Mary Beth and then walk into traffic. On their way back to the hotel room, they are ran off the road by what looks like Craddock's ghost truck at first, but then when they look back, it's just like a normal Jeep or something. So they hurry back to the dogs, because clearly they are not safe without them, no matter what. Doesn't matter if they're in a public place, it doesn't matter if it's daytime. if they are without the dogs, they are in danger. It seems like Craddock is only staying away from them when the dogs are around. So they get back on the road, and Mary Beth convinces Jude to stop by her grandmother Bammy's house for a little while. On the way there, Jude rebandages the puncture wound on his hand, and Mary Beth has the absolute nerve to ask him what he's going to do about his hand. And he says, same thing you're doing about your hand. I'm not going to do anything about it. After a few more annoying questions, Jude finally snaps and says, Florida, will you just shut up? And so Mary Beth starts to cry, and after he realizes she's crying, he thinks back and realizes that he accidentally called her Florida instead of Georgia. He's been calling her Georgia this entire time, by the way. Only towards the very end, like right about this area, after he calls her Florida, does he start using her actual name. So Mary Beth's grandma is named Bammy, and she welcomes them in, feeding them, letting them use the shower, etc. And she wishes they would stay the night, but they refuse. They don't want to waste any time, and they also don't want to drag her into this whole thing by her helping them. They don't want to put her in danger. So they decide to take a nap, but before they do, Mary Beth finds a Ouija board in her old childhood bedroom, and they decide to sit down and attempt to contact Anna. And this is where part 1 ends. So far it's not super disturbing, except for that one scene of Mary Beth and the whole gun in her mouth thing. But I'm having a blast reading this. I have no clue where it's going to go, and I'm feeling more sympathy for Jude than I originally thought that I would. I only wish that the women were written a little bit better, a little with a little more complexity, especially Mary Beth. I feel like there's a lot that could be done there, but she's basically just goth ex-stripper who loves Jude and can throw knives good. So yeah, that's the end of part 1. In the next couple of weeks, I will get out my April book list of all the books that I've read in April, and after that I will put up part 2 of this if you guys are interested. I hope you are, because I'm going to keep reading it, and I'm going to put out the breakdown of it whether you like it or not. But it'd be cool if you were actually interested in watching it. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys a lot for checking out my videos and my channel. I'm at like, I think 24 subscribers right now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot to me. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye!